What's up, guys? We got a special one for you, the Boom Boom Show. We're here with Jiu-Jitsu star Ace, Ethan Crelinsten, Danaher Death Squad, DDS, Tristar Gym, Montreal. Let's go! All right, Ethan, what's up, man? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good,
How
good.
you doing,
Long-time friend, long-time training partner over at Tristar Gym. You're doing so many things now. You've honestly become monumental. It's crazy. You know, you're kind of linear. You're kind of parallel path with the Jiu-Jitsu game because it's going up. You're with the DDS. You're with Tristar Gym. It's going up. First of all, how did you start Jiu-Jitsu? What was the beginning like? What was it like first time walking to Tristar? Did you start another gym? What was the beginning like here in Montreal?
Yeah, okay. So the beginning, I actually started doing just like, I was like looking for ways to learn how to fight because it was just cool. Like UFC was sort of exploding, and I'm like, I want to try this out. So I started doing like fitness kickboxing at some gym, and started
like jazzercise type thing.
Yeah, like just like it was like a karate fitness kickboxing thing, and I started really liking it. And I still remember the guy, Stacy Unger. He was the man.
Shout out Stacy.
Shout out Stacy Unger. And at one point, I started trying to do wrestling. I started trying to do Greco with Dory Yeats and,
cool.
and those guys.
At Tristar?
Not at Tristar. At that same place that we were doing the...
it's in Cavendish or something.
West End. At first it was in West End, in Côte Saint Loup Shopping Center or something. And someone there told me I should go check out Tristar. And then eventually I get to Tristar and I start looking to do my first fight. And the guys there are like, you don't know any jiu-jitsu. You have to learn jiu-jitsu. And
How old were you at this point?
I think I was like 18, 19. And yeah, I'm like, all right, fine. Then this guy, Neil Shepard, just beat my ass for like 15 minutes straight.
Master Neil.
Shout out, man. All these guys. And I was like, all right, fine. I guess I need to learn this. So I stuck with it for like 1 month and competed. I did well and pretty much just gravitated towards that and just forgot about MMA.
But did you take that fight? That fight that you want to take?
No, I never even fought. Yeah, I just sort of started liking jiu-jitsu more and more. I started competing more and more, and that was it.
Yeah, because I remember when you started, you know, just like any other kid, you're just a scrawny kid comes in the gym, and you kind of just stayed with it, and it's nice to see like guys like you and guys that like Taza and other guys that come from. It doesn't have to be a jiu-jitsu gym, could be an MMA gym who excelled, and then you start searching. You start searching like excellence. You start searching other place to go. Yeah, we were lucky to have Ryan Hall come to the gym a lot of times.
Yeah.
So what's the first place you went outside Tristar to train?
So I was definitely lucky that Tristar is in Montreal and that I gravitated towards Tristar because a lot of really high-level guys like Ryan Hall and many other guys came through the gym. George St. Pierre being the biggest, factor in the connection between Montreal and Henzo's. So because when George and Faras were looking to get better jiu-jitsu, they would go down to John's in Henzo's and train with him and then come back up. So sort of a while before I even knew what was going on with MMA or any of that, like he had made that connection. So that was pretty much it. Like we just sort of followed in those footsteps. And
so when and what is it like the first time you walk into the Blue Basement and John Danaher and
oh man, the first
Henzo's
time
in New York?
I've never been asked. Honestly, it's hard to
remember because you've been so many times. Yeah.
The very first time, I think I was with Aiemann Zahabi. I think we went down there.
Got a hotel room with someone.
Yeah, either a room with someone or maybe like I had cousins who lived down there. I think I maybe just like slept on their couch or something. I don't know. It was a while. It was
but you didn't know what to expect. You were like a blue belt,
I just
purple
saw
belt?
pictures. Like it's I think a purple belt. I just saw pictures and stuff. And yeah, they were all so cool, man. They were right away like super inviting. They're like I remember like I would go there back and forth, and every time I would leave, they'd be like, "Why are you leaving? You should stay here and train full time." Like, oh, all right, sure, I'll try. And eventually I'm pretty much there full time, and yeah.
What's nice about New York, and it's nice for us to have the connection with them over at Tristar, is it's a real like academy. It's a real like I've been to Russia and I've competed all over the world for wrestling, and Cuba and these spots where it's everything to do that sport, and that's kind of what it is. In the middle of chaos, you're in New York, you're in Times Square. You're in New York City. You're right at Penn Station. You walk literally 100 feet and you're in the Blue Basement. And they've built a real academy there. Was there, have you ever spoke to John about this? Was there some kind of method behind this madness? Or was it just like, hey, I'm going to go all in on this and whoever joins? Because they train twice a day. It's dead serious, but
yeah, so
it's
I
a
think
real academy.
I think it's just sort of attracts people with that sort of tunnel vision mentality, like just get as good as you possibly can at one thing and dedicate yourself, devote your time to it. But I think John is himself like that as well, like just mastering what you're mastering your craft. And he came up and started getting better under Renzo, and then with his injuries and stuff like that, he was never really able to compete.
A little bit later in life, he was already kind of a professor at university in philosophy.
Exactly. So he's a very good mentality of teaching and exploring knowledge and how to learn and that sort of sense. So he attracted guys like Gary and Gordon and those guys to learn from someone who's teaching in an intelligent way and not just sort of battering away at like do a million burpees and drill this move 100 times and see what happens.
It's because I've been lucky enough to train with you. You kind of had me there a few times. You introduced me to the guys, and I know John from the days when I would kind of help George out with the wrestling stuff, some of his guys. But what's kind of nice was it's really like there's some guys there that I feel like there's like people that work on Wall Street. There's people that do all kinds of jobs, but some people are literally like, I find like there's some people literally like quitting their life to go and train there, like no matter what they do. Yeah. And that's kind of like what you and Taz and other guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were already sort of
all in
for jiu-jitsu, and now there's a place where it's like a group of professionals that we're all in the same room, we're all in the same path. Like we all have that same tunnel vision, and we all have John, who's the instructor, who's helping us get better what we all want to do.
So what's the philosophy about competition there? Because they do a lot of sub only. You guys are experts at sub only. You guys, I mean, with no time limit stuff. There's nobody worse in fighting than you guys at that no time limit stuff, because you guys are always searching for attacks. What's the mentality behind competition there? Is it really like, hey, we've got to compete as much as possible, or we should do only this style or only that style? What's the mentality behind competition?
I think everyone sort of has their own recipe for it. Some guys prefer to compete as often as possible. Some guys are somewhere in between, and some guys like to reserve their competitive matches for like one-time things, big events, like once every like 2 to 4 months, like less often. I hover all over, like with COVID, like it was sort of hard
tough,
to, it was tough to compete as often.
And what's John's mentality about it? Like, what does he tell you guys?
It's different for everyone. If he sees someone, gets nervous or anxious, might tell them to compete more just to break through that. If he sees someone who is very good but competing too often, maybe lowering their brand, then he might say like reserve it for the big shows. It's always different. It depends on the person. If they need to compete more, then go for it. If they want to compete more, then go for it. But it all depends. It all depends, man.
That's awesome, because I kind of relate that to like when I watch the Russians in wrestling who have dominated wrestling for so long. And I would go to all these international tournaments, and a lot of times I wouldn't see the top guys. Yeah. And they would reserve their time for the national championships or the world championships.
Competing is very time consuming and energy consuming. Like it takes like competing this weekend.
It's a big fight this weekend.
Yeah. It's a main event of Fight to Win. Like that's going to take a lot of effort.
Good luck, man. We're behind you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, let's do it, man. Make Montreal proud. But it's definitely like you want to pick your shots. You want to do it right.
So are you okay? So you have a fight this weekend. You're fighting. You're telling me a really top level Brazilian ranked, top 4 in the world.
Yeah,
from Brazil. Was there a peaking process for this, or you just got offered the fight and you're going for it?
We were looking to get on this card for a couple weeks now, but we we weren't sure on who to match up with. There were some like guys who were heavier, or some guys who were unranked or something, and this guy popped up, said yes, so that was it. And
you're fighting at 155 pounds.
155, yes.
And what weight does this guy usually fight at? Is that around his weight?
Yeah, I think 155.
Because you've been, I mean, I've been following your career. Obviously, you're one of my good friends from Tristar. We kind of came up together, me in MMA and you in Jiu-Jitsu. And it's crazy that just to see what you've been up to lately. Like you won a tournament in Europe at like 170 pounds. The guys look like they could have been your or maybe even heavier than you. Like the guys heavier than that. Was it 170 or?
I think it was 180.
180. Yeah. I mean, some of the guys look like they could be like your bodyguard. I mean, you're fighting big, all kinds of. I remember because we spoke about this because I also did IBJJF at your weight, 135. We both did 135 in purple belt.
Yes.
And just remembering how small you used to be, and now you're out there.
I was walking around 135. It wasn't even a cut.
I remember how tiny you were, and now you're out there competing with monsters, and just to see like so. What is it like when you go out there and you're competing against someone that much bigger? I see in the gym you manhandle guys who are bigger, but is it nerve-wracking in tournaments?
Yeah, the nerves throughout my years of competing definitely have I'd say I get a little bit more anxious now than I used to, because I was coming up and
Now
it
you're
didn't
perfectionist.
really,
You know how good you should do.
Losing
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
really such a big
Yeah.
deal. Like if you lost something and like it doesn't really matter, purple, brown belt,
Yeah.
no one cares. Like people care, but like it's not the end of the world. Now there's a lot more eyes on you, so I'm like, I have trouble like getting out of that mind frame. Like you can't lose, everything depends on this, which isn't really true. Still, it's the same as before. You're not gonna die if you lose, and you're not gonna become God if you win. You're just a guy trying to make himself known and go down in history, and it's not the end of the world if you lose. But it's hard to break out of that sometimes.
But what I'm asking is like, what's it like fighting those bigger guys? Did like the open weight stuff prepare you for that, or
Yeah, definitely a lot of open weight tournaments prepared.
Because you've done a lot of open weight. You've done a lot
yeah.
of what do they call it? Absolute
Absolute divisions, and the IBJJF, and just open weight tournaments in general, bigger weight classes. It's fun, man. You gotta be technical. You gotta outsmart them. You're not gonna
it's insane.
Strength them.
Coming from wrestling, like we couldn't even dream of doing that. Like
it's different. It's different.
I remember the first time I won a tournament, like just a local tournament here, and they said, "Oh, do you want to do the absolute division?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
and they were like, "Yeah, you'll do like with guys 200
Yeah.
pounds." Like I think Donald was there, and guys. I was like, "Hell no, I don't want to." Like, why? I have a hard time fighting guys 150 or your size.
I think it's different. It's different. Like
in wrestling, you can do that, but you're right. I think because of grappling, guys aren't.
It's weird that the weight doesn't scale as much as in sports like wrestling and boxing, for example.
You can't get sprawled on by a guy who's 250.
Well, you could get sprawled on, but you could pull guard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Your
You're
game
going
is going
with
to be
it.
different. You could just you could use all of your limbs and your body's connected to the ground to carry their weight. So like a guy, let's say I'm 140 pounds and I'm going to face a guy who's 200 pounds. That's 60 pounds difference. If I'm wrestling him, I'm going to feel that like the majority of the match.
Like if you wrestled Nicky Rod.
Dude, yeah, as soon as we tie up, I'm feeling all of his weight,
Yeah.
Whereas if I can pull guard on a guy like Nicky Rod, suddenly I'm not carrying my own weight and I'm only carrying some of his weight. And
That's
it's not as energy consuming. It's not as dangerous. Boxing, no one does that.
You don't want to get hit by a guy.
You don't want to get
big,
hit by a guy who's 60 pounds heavier
Although
than
Floyd just did it with
sure,
Logan
that
Paul.
was a little, it's different.
Novelty fight, yeah.
Yeah. But in like a competitive sense, no one's going to do that. In wrestling too, you're not going to do that. But in jiu-jitsu, it's different just because of the nature of the sport, and you're sort of lower on the ground. There's less falling body weight. You can do it tactically where it's safe, and you can win.
Wow. So you're fighting this weekend. It's Fight to Win. We talked off air about your sponsor Betty and Roll Forever and all them. They've been making it possible for you to compete as much as you want, as much as you can. They've been really supportive. Obviously, we're here in Montreal. You travel all over to compete, literally all over. You're in the U.S., you're in Europe. You were staying in Puerto Rico where the Danaher Dart Squad is training out of.
Yes.
So shout out to Betty. Thank you so much.
Betty is killing it. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
this match this weekend would not have been possible without Betty.
That's awesome, yeah.
Pretty much the Fight to Win going to Charlotte, North Carolina, where it is, would not have happened without Betty. She is really like pioneering, bringing at least like this group of guys like me,
Pierre-Olivier Leclerc from Tristar,
Tristar, Taza, Donald, Nick Ronan. She is like killing it with all of us. She's even like randomly supporting guys from Puerto Rico, like Juan out there.
So she's just like a jiu-jitsu enthusiast who got behind a few of you athletes and kind of supports you guys financially.
Yeah, and she's sort of like spearheading, like bringing us into the seminar world a bit more organized, a bit better. She's I think she did the full athlete process to get us visas for me and Taza, and she's just like priceless. Having Betty on your team, you're set.
Yeah. That's great because I was lucky enough to have here at BTC Studios for my last fight. I'm kind of pissed I only met you guys through my last fight, but to have someone behind you in any endeavor, even if it's financial, if it's someone taking care of your media, if it's someone taking care of anything, when you're an athlete who's training at such a high level, training twice,
there's
3 times a day.
There's no time for all of that.
Yeah.
There's just no
That's
time.
what I was going to say.
Yeah. And if you rush it, you're going to do it wrong and you're going to be like making mistakes. Yeah.
So how important is it to have a support team?
It's priceless. I think any athlete as soon as you start going deeper into whatever sport it is you're going into, you need people on your team. You can't do it alone. It's impossible. There isn't enough time in the day, and there isn't enough organization to be made to do all that. Like you need a team. If you're gonna pay people to do it, okay.
Yeah.
But you have to.
You have to get there before you pay people.
Exactly.
Yeah. GSP was able to pay people when he was winning. He was winning early. The other thing I want to talk to you about was the Ryan brothers, Nikki and Gordon. Now, one thing which is super super cool about that is that in all these trips you took to New York, eventually you started being able to stay at their house.
Yeah.
And they also have a great support system because they have a mother who's super supportive. And now I love how I see Gordon Ryan. Every time I follow him, all his videos are done like with his girlfriend. So it's like he doesn't stray too far from his circle, I find. I don't know him personally, you do. But am I right to say that they have a really tight circle? They don't stray. Look, his instructional videos are literally with his girlfriend. He lives with his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So now you have your girlfriend, your social life with your jiu-jitsu, someone to cook your meals, someone to help, or you can cook for them. And it's that support staff. How important was that, and how important were they for you coming up?
Yes, so them as well as the entire team have been just priceless for me coming up. Just as soon as I started going down there consistently, it's just been I just see more and more on how much of a team they are, how much sort of
it's fantastic. Yeah,
like
that's good,
they're just like tight knit and like you said, they like stay within each other and stuff. It's a support system like you were talking about. Like people have that here in TriStar. It's similar.
But that's what it was like. You started training, so Nikki's like, come stay at my mom's house.
Yeah, I'd stay with Nikki at Trish's house in Jersey for a while, and then as Trish decided to move down to Florida, Gordon got a house up in like northern Jersey, and then I just moved in there for a bit, and then
so
Puerto
it's like
Rico.
The dream. It's just young athletes training and getting better and living together, and
that's it. Yeah, it's like just a team. It's like a communal like team. Like we don't really have much else going on. We're all just training same goals and tunnel vision, man.
Because people see people see the social media and they see this and the results and that, this and that. But what I see when I went down New York was you guys training super hard and guys training twice a day. And
that's all it is. It's not like once you sort of get into it, it's not really fancy, like traveling crazy shit. We film that, so that's more entertaining.
Sometimes you film, having fun. Yeah.
But
so what's it like the first time you guys hear this news of this Puerto Rico move?
Oh, man.
So if anybody's following the DDS Danaher Death Squad, John Danaher decides to take the team to Puerto Rico.
It was like a group decision. So it was like John and Gordon were
because COVID was pretty bad in New York.
COVID was really bad in New York. The restrictions were starting to get a little crazy. It seems to be opening up now, but it was crazy at the time. And I think they just wanted sort of to start doing their own thing, like started to branch off and really identify more with their own brand. So now it's like when we compete, we have DDS like under the team, not Renzo Gracie anymore. Nothing wrong with Renzo Gracie. It's just, they've been amazing for me specifically. Mm-hmm. They've been awesome. All the staff there, everyone there at the gym has been awesome. But I think they just wanted to sort of branch off and start
their own thing. Yeah.
Identify with their own brand. Yeah.
So that's happening now. That's you see the results they're bringing in. They're huge results and
huge.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you is now about jiu-jitsu. So black belt now.
Yeah.
It took you long enough.
Yeah.
So we see. What do you think about that? Like we see karate schools. They've been doing this forever. People have known the belt system from a karate base. But in jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like, it was like always like, well, if you did the classes and you showed up, you would get a black belt. Now
it's like a time thing.
Time thing. Yeah. Now for a guy like you who competed against the best of the best, who really did everything you can, train as hard as you could, it took you a hell of a long time to get that black belt. Do you think that system is do you think it's relevant to the gym, or what do you think of the belt system in jiu-jitsu? Because you just got it, and congrats to that. But it's kind of like you getting a black belt is kind of like a millionaire accumulating another million. It's like, okay, I got it, but. So what do you think of the belt system in jiu-jitsu? What's your take on it?
I think in jiu-jitsu, belts don't really matter that much. They're starting to matter, at least in no-gi, from my area of expertise. They don't really matter as much as they used to.
In no-gi?
In no-gi, yeah. Okay. I don't know, but maybe in the gi, they're starting to matter less as well. Just as your guys are, like in wrestling, for example, there's no belts. Mm-hmm. It's merit-based, and you compete, and you do however well you do. And, your merit is your belt, I guess.
Do you think the belt system
know you?
Do you think it comes from the gi system? Is that where?
Yeah, for sure. There's there's
IBJJF gi system.
Yeah, and like the old school Brazilian style thing, like comes from from judo as well, and is passed into jiu-jitsu. But I think they're just becoming less sort of important. You're seeing
all the time, like purple belt, like Nicky Rod is a blue belt. Was competing in ADCC.
Guys, exactly. If you're a good grappler, that's it. That's all that matters. You could be a blue belt destroying black belts, and it's
And I think
totally normal.
What you're saying is relevant too. And again, not to show off, I'm nothing in jiu-jitsu, but I remember when I was a blue belt doing a tournament and then I beat someone with wrestling, obviously takedown control, maybe a pass or two. They told me after, oh, that guy's a really good brown belt. And then I was like, oh, thank God you didn't tell me before because I would have been so intimidated. Because
been nervous,
in wrestling, if I consider wrestling like a blue belt is someone who's only a couple years in. And if you fight me, who's like 25 years in, like I should kill you, you know? But I guess you're right. It's not the same. Guys are they're respecting the fact that guys are coming from judo and they're good grapplers. Guys are coming from wrestling, they're good grapplers.
They have background skills, and it very evidently translates to jiu-jitsu. It's grappling. It's all the same, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting to hear your take on it because I always looked at like that belt system as like, whoa. And
it's not a good way to. Like, it's not a good benchmark to like. If you see someone that's this belt, like it tells you much less today than it would in the past. Like back, I don't know, 10 years ago, if you see a guy who has like a purple belt, then for sure he's gonna be good. Like it's reliable to say like, okay, this guy's probably
wasn't as mainstream.
more
there
likely
wasn't many gyms.
Exactly.
The guy was definitely
some guy
training
gave this
a
guy a
lot.
purple belt. Okay, then some guy out there thinks he is good. Then he's got to be kind of good. Today it's who knows, man. It's a crapshoot. You never know. A guy could be. Guy could have a black belt and it could be some watered down
gym and like
nonsense gym, and the guy could be a blue belt and it could be like at a killer gym and the guy's got some wrestling behind him, some judo or whatever, and he's a killer. You know, you never know.
What do you think of the gi system then? Are you ever going to train the gi, or it's completely off your radar?
I'm not against training in the gi, but I don't think I'm ever going to really pursue a competitive career in the gi. Yeah, I think the
money looks like it's. I mean, you don't do it for the money, of course, because I saw you do it way before. But the money right now is in no gi. I mean, the
money is without a doubt in no-gi, and I think just the spectators are gravitating to no-gi, and I personally just like no-gi way more. I'm
especially
not
your style, very fast, a lot of passing.
I don't like being held in place. I'd much rather just keep the pace relatively high and keep the action going, and it's just more fun. Training like that is more fun.
So we talked about novelty fights. So I wanted to ask you, what would happen if like one of these superstars that's training in jiu-jitsu, or they get a blue belt, purple belt, and they challenge you? Like, what if it's a big guy like Logan Paul?
I would love that, man. That'd be awesome. That's the coolest thing ever. That's the coolest thing ever, man. That's great. It'll bring so much eyes up to the sport, and it would be just an awesome event. You'd
have to come to the Boom Boom Show to pump it up. We'd be behind you 100%.
For sure, man. For sure. That'd be great.
I wanted to. I got to put you on the spot, Ethan, for one thing. I never talked to you about this outside. This is the first time I talked to Ethan about this, and this is something I remember about you, and I'll never forget it to the day I die. It's like I've seen every top athlete go through this, and I went through it. I went through it with someone, and I'll never forget the speech that someone gave me. It's the speech that Ryan Hall gave you.
Okay.
We were in the cage at Tristar, and I was rolling. I think you were rolling. And Ryan Hall, you were good at this point, but you weren't what you are now. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember the time. Maybe even less, 3 years ago. But I know you have tons of respect for Ryan Hall, and we all do.
For sure.
And Ryan Hall came up to you, and he kind of, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I just remember that he just looked at you, and he was like, look, you're doing this and that, and you're doing that, and you should be doing this, and he kind of gave, but as respectfully as possible, but he gave you the speech. And I think every top level athlete has to go through it when they're trying to get to the next level, and we've all been there.
You're trying to break the next plateau.
You're trying to get the next plateau, but you're doing a few things wrong. Because again, it's normal. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
Do you remember this? Do you remember the conversation where Ryan was like, look, right now you're just like a leg locker. You're just this, just that.
Yeah,
you need to be doing this if you want to get to the next level. Like,
for sure. We joke about it, you know.
You joke about it now? Because it was pretty serious when he talked to you then. It was,
for sure.
I appreciate that because I was like, hey, you know what? Anybody else hearing this must have been like, oh man, that's pretty harsh. But at that moment, I was like, yeah, you respect it.
We've heard harsher from John. It's all good.
Good, because at that moment, I was like, you know what? This is going to make Ethan better. Someone who respects is putting him in his place. So the times like that, do you remember times like that? Like when guys tell you monumental things that you know, you're like, oh, should I really? At the time, it's like maybe the end of the world. I remember my coach, Victor, who would tell me things, I'd be heartbroken. But years later, I was like, fuck, if he didn't tell me that, like.
Yeah. So about that, I'll remember things people tell me, but I'll remember much more things people do.
Oh, okay.
So Ryan beat the shit out of me back then. Like I was like a fresh blue belt.
Yeah.
Thinking leg locks are gonna get me winning everything in the world, and I'm gonna be the best in the world. And I roll with Ryan, and he just like melts my guard, like it doesn't exist. And then that was the speech. That was more than 1,000 hours of speeches that could have been given to me. I do remember what he said, but I remember much more how we trained. And it was Definitely a rude awakening.
Yeah,
like, as to my game.
Man, that was, I think I was with Sam DeBalki. I don't remember who I was with, but that person I was with was like freaking out, like, oh my God. And I was like, man, that's the best thing that could happen to Ethan. And he's going to learn from this because it's someone he respects who's basically like, I'm sure Pascal in Taekwondo, you've had that moment where an older athlete comes up to you and is like, hey, you think you're the shit, but guess what?
But you suck.
Yeah, you actually suck at this point. You might get there, but if you don't do this,
But hey, look, if that person wasn't better than you, you wouldn't really respect what they're saying. If you could just turn around and kick him in the head, then you're like, all right, whatever, you know?
Older masters, yeah. So I think we all been there, and I just wanted to point that out because I never forgot that. And I was like, holy shit. Like,
if that kind of thing is going to sort of break you down, then you will never have been good in the first place. You got to have some either whatever you want to call it, thick skin or tough sense of, forward movement, whatever it is. If you don't have that, then you never would have been making it in the first place.
And I always tell the younger guys now who are still wrestling with Victor at the Montreal Wrestling Club, and I tell them, guys, you can't. Don't take it personal. Like take it.
And the guys, why is he talking to me? Like
because he cares.
He cares. Yeah. If he doesn't care, he'd just be like, "Good round, thanks, next."
Yeah. I wish I would have knew that in school when I was in high school and the teacher yelled at you. It'd be like,
Yeah.
And they're like, maybe this teacher actually wants me to learn. Or they were fed up.
Or they're like, hey,
How were you in school?
Off.
How were you in high school?
I was a little shit, definitely. Yeah, I was definitely a troublemaker. Yeah. I disrupt the class and stuff. But I didn't have any I didn't train when I was in high school. I only like years after high school.
You didn't play any sports growing up or like
Nah, not really. We like played football and stuff like that at recess, but nothing more than that. Yeah.
It's good that you kind of like put jiu-jitsu onto your brother. Did you push it onto your brother Liam or did he kind of
No, so Liam, it's a funny story, man. My little brother Liam, for those of you guys don't know.
Great kid. I love that kid.
He's the best. He's the best. For like a few years, he would see me train. He was like, it was always cool and stuff. And he was like too small to train at first. And then I brought him into the gym a few times, and he didn't really.
But he's quite a bit younger than you. He's not like 2 years.
10, 11 years younger than me. So he was like maybe 8 or 9 when I first brought him in, and like you're too little to train. Like it's adults in TriStar,
Yeah.
If it was like kids and they were actually somewhat technical and he got some cool rounds and maybe he would have liked it, but there was no real kids for him to train with. So he's like, fuck this. I don't want to train with a bunch of guys who literally, it's like rolling with an ant. Like it doesn't do anything. It's kind of hard for both people to have any benefit. So a few years went by, and then we were in Israel. We're just traveling. My mom and brother were out there. I met them there, and I was teaching some seminars. And Liam was, we're in Israel on vacation. He doesn't have like stuff to do, so he's like, "All right, I'll come with you." And I do the seminar. It's all good. He's sort of like watching on the side, and then rolling starts, and he decides to jump in. He gives it a shot. And I remember he trains with some guy who is like, some scrawny guy, and Liam Americanas him. He doesn't really know what it is. He just like grabbed his arm and twisted it. Like he didn't really know what he's doing, but like he did it, submitted the guy, and he comes to me after, and he's like, oh, he was hooked, man. He was like, I felt him. He said this to me. I'm like, what changed? Why do you suddenly like it? He's like, I felt him struggle and submit to my will, like something like that.
Yeah, your brother's so philosophical. I love talking to him because he's so ahead of his time,
He's way ahead. He's too mature for his age, man. He's 16 now. He's like a 58-year-old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's like philosopher, yeah.
So
that was funny, man. And a sociopath after that comment, clearly.
What was it like? The last thing we'll talk about, because producer Pascal, Merlin, everyone was freaking out here. They were rewatching your video of the arm break.
Oh, man.
What's it like when you go to a competition and you just know you have? Did you just know you had him, or was it like what happens in a situation like that?
All right, so that match is actually I'm sure it's in FloGrappling somewhere. If you watch the entire match, in the first 30 seconds or something, I get him in an armbar, and he's just letting his elbow break, just crack in every direction. And he escapes the armbar without like having it completely dislocated. And he was like scrappy. He was like pawing my face, like kick me, this and that. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to kill this guy. So I throw on a couple other submissions. I keep attacking. Finally, I get a triangle locked in pretty tight. And he's just not tapping. And I can't strangle him. He's not tapping. And then, I get the Kimura, get it really tight. I remember Gordon was cornering me, and I was trying with, like, if you see in the video, the short clip that we saw, I try with all my strength. I was not like that strong back then. I was like just trying with everything I had to push his hand behind his back. And I just couldn't break it. I had as far as I knew, I had all the technique down. I couldn't break it. Gordon says to me, put his knuckles behind his armpit. So I'm like, okay, I readjust. And then applying like maybe 5% of the force that I applied in the first attempt to break his arm, it just goes from here, bang, across his back in like half a second. His arm goes from like a strong, resistant arm to like a wet noodle. I was like, oh, Jesus. I let go, get up, walk away, and that was it, man.
That was it, yeah. So did you learn something at that point? Because I see John Harn, a lot of his posts, he talks about that, about like position over power, and like, did you learn something? Was it like more...
I definitely learned about Kimura breaking mechanics for sure. It's if you're listening to this out there, just put their hand close to their armpit and you got a
you probably get it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, and anything else? I mean, we thanked Roll Forever. Anything else you want to talk about? I mean, obviously, huge shout out to Firas Zahabi for getting it all started. Aiemann and all the team there, Mendel, Louis, and all the guys who coach over there, and Neil, and who started there.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say before this big fight on Saturday night? How can we watch it if we want to watch it?
FloGrappling is going to be putting it on. It's going to be Saturday night or weigh-in Friday, and yeah, man, it's main events.
FloGrappling, you have to purchase FloGrappling. I have Flow Wrestling.
So. Yeah.
I got to get on that.
If you have Flow Wrestling, you have FloGrappling.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good. Then I have it. I know FloGrappling, if you guys are cheap, you don't want to buy it. You know, the Boom Boom Show is free, so like, comment, subscribe here with your bees, knees, cats, pajamas. But if you want to just follow along the FloGrappling on Instagram, it's kind of nice because they always post stories.
Update it. Yeah,
they'll update post stories, so you follow them, and then you'll get to see how Ethan does. And we wish you best luck this Friday. Anything else, man?
No, man. Thanks for having me.
It was fun, man. It was fun,
yeah.
Ethan.
Awesome, man.
Guys, that's it. That wraps up Ethan Crelinsten. Guys, follow him on Instagram, and he does a lot of seminars. So if you want to reach out to him, do we reach out to you or someone else?
Either me or Roll Forever. Usually, I think, yeah.
He's doing a lot of seminars. Guys, get this guy in your gym for a seminar because you will learn some crazy DDS, Tristar gym, kung fu, crazy.
Arm breaks.
You'll learn the real stuff, guys. Yeah. And that's it, guys. Stay tuned. Peace.